Single-player titles in modern gaming have catered around open-world gameplay. Think of Assassin's Creed, GTA, Horizon, The Witcher, Far Cry, Saints Row, Crackdown, Skyrim. The list goes on. Nintendo has always been critiqued for not following the rest of the gaming industry and going in their own direction. I, for one, have given Nintendo credit for going against the grain, and when Zelda Breath of the Wild was announced, I realized that they were saving their best idea yet. Breath of the Wild might be the greatest gaming experience ever. Let's break down what makes this game so special and imperative for anyone to play. I won't go over the typical Zelda formula too much, but throughout its history, it's been known as an action-adventure game with some combat and puzzle solving. You go around a big world, you collect stuff, you kill things, and you solve puzzles. When Ocarina of Time was announced for the N64, some fans praised how seamless Zelda fit within the 3D landscape, while others critiqued it due to its linearity. Before Link was introduced to 3D, there was a large emphasis on exploration within Hyrule. You could go on different routes on your quest to defeat Ganon, and your path was not necessarily drawn out for you. True exploration was a much harder feat to accomplish within 3D games because you were required to obtain items in order to get to various places. You were not just given all the items up front. Zelda Breath of the Wild changed up its formula while adding its own modern twist. It simply married a modern 3D Zelda style, but with its older 2D style, a freedom to explore and go whatever route you like. A question that I still have trouble answering to this day is, what is an open world game? I think of a sandbox game with a giant world to explore. With that definition in mind, GTA might come up, but is that truly an open world? In GTA 4, you're only restricted to certain parts of the map when you start out. You're required to complete missions in order to unlock the rest of the map. Breath of the Wild, on the other hand, abandons this form of linearity for a truly open-world experience where you can reach any part of the map as soon as you complete the short tutorial in the beginning of the game. The introduction to Breath of the Wild is genius. Like in the beginning of every Zelda game, Link awakens from his slumber, but this time there are different circumstances. This is an amnesia-induced Link who lost a battle and fell into a deep slumber for over 100 years. This version of Hyrule is almost like a post-apocalyptic world. Ganon already won, and you see nothing but ruins upon what used to be a thriving Hyrulean society. Although you find some friends along the way, you feel alone throughout this adventure. As soon as you walk out of your sleeping chamber, you are placed into your own personal gaming sandbox. See those mountains in the distance? You can reach that. See that volcano? Go for it. There are deserts, snowy mountains, beaches, rainforests, lakes. You're in one of the biggest gaming worlds ever. All of these different terrains have different enemies, weapons, and just an overall different aesthetic. Zelda justifies the size of its world by packing content to the brim, but not forcing the player to experience everything, but instead simply encouraging it. If you want, you could head straight to Ganon, although I don't recommend it because you'll get your ass kicked, but in theory, you can beat the game in less than an hour. I spent my first couple of hours of the game just finding each tower and climbing it because it filled out my map similar to Far Cry or Assassin's Creed. The game didn't require me to do this, but it made my adventure much easier because I had more visibility on my map. It also allowed me to use the height of the towers to my advantage. I use these towers as a vantage point to scope out shrines I wouldn't normally see, thus making Link stronger. I spoke before about linear Zelda games, how you slowly obtain items throughout your quest to build up your inventory and allow you to traverse to new regions. In Breath of the Wild, you obtain all of your items in the first hour of the game. These items are called runes, and they mostly incorporate physics to help you solve puzzles. There's this Magnesis rune that allows you to pick up metal objects and move them like your Magneto from X-Men. There's the Stasis rune, which freezes an object and allows you to hit it to build up kinetic energy to then allow the object to fly and hit certain switches or enemies. There's an Ice rune that allows you to freeze water and turn it into a platform. This can also be used to open certain gates, hide from enemies. All of these runes have multi-uses. Lastly, you obtain remote bombs that are unlimited but have a cooldown time. Bombs are used similar to other Zelda games. You just damage enemies and blow up walls and stuff. Nintendo took a risk by giving the player all the tools they need at the very beginning of the game, but that's the point. You have hundreds of quests throughout your playthrough, but the first post-tutorial quest is to destroy Ganon. That's all the information you get at first. If you want to learn more about the world you're in, you have to explore. You might have all the tools you need at your disposal from the get-go, but you're still weak, and you'll get your ass kicked if you run to Hyrule Castle. The speedrunning community, on the other hand, has embraced this, and it's led to some awesome speedruns on YouTube. For us regular folks, you explore, you get stronger weapons, armor, collect more hearts, more stamina, beat some dungeons. Eventually, you'll be strong enough to face Ganon head-on and save Hyrule. Other open world games, the competitors if you will, force content down the gamer's throat without allowing for discovery. These games have markers that show you how to exactly get to your next destination, arrows pointing you in that direction, and it basically defeats the purpose of an open world. It defeats the purpose of exploration. Zelda has always mastered the sense of player progression, and it's difficult to achieve that in a non-linear game. In Ocarina of Time, you start out with nothing. You're almost powerless, but you have a set path to go on to get the tools you need to succeed. In Breath of the Wild, you get all those tools up front, so you're not given a path. You create your own path. This gives you an uneasy sense of fear as you go around the world of Hyrule. It's really a scary game at first, and you will die a lot. No matter where you go, there's always something trying to murder you. Even the environment can be deadly. Lightning can strike you, rocks can fall and kill you, ninjas who are disguised as innocent town people are always trying to kill you. The fear of the unknown rings true in Breath of the Wild. This Zelda game also changed up the formula within its controls. This is the first Zelda game to have a manual jumping mechanic, which turns this action-adventure puzzle game into a platformer as well. Link has hops this time around, and a glider that allows him to cover much more ground. The game designers reintroduced the running and stamina mechanic, but with the addition of a climbing ability. Stamina is extremely important in Breath of the Wild, and it's something that you'll want to increase as you continue your adventure. The combat is another thing that has been completely revamped. You have so many more options to approach enemy camps. It's almost like a Metal Gear game. You're a big boss, you can sneak around enemies and catch them by surprise, you can find explosives in a room and use a light to ignite the explosives, literally nuking your enemies. You can go in Duke Nukem style and just kick some ass.
I've got balls of steel.
Breath of the Wild doesn't just let you go where you want, it lets you fight how you want too. There are 120 shrines in the main quest before you download the DLC. These shrines are like mini dungeons involving either combat or puzzle challenges where you have to utilize your runes. These bite-sized challenges really test your brain and are, in my opinion, the best part of this game. Every 4 shrines you complete allow you to get an extra heart or add onto your stamina wheel. It was good to have a nice balance between the two, but stamina was really important for me because it will allow you to fly longer, climb for longer durations, run for longer periods of time, and even swim for longer periods of time. Although you have a million mini dungeons, there's a shortage of regular dungeons, 4 to be exact, and 5 if you want to include Hyrule Castle. These dungeons have mixed reception around the gaming world, but I personally really enjoyed them. The dungeons are called Divine Beasts, and they're basically these gigantic robotic animals that you go inside. You gain control of a specific action that intertwines with your puzzle solving. For example, I was able to control the trunk of this elephant. I used his trunk to put out a fire and reach one of the terminals that I was required to access. Like everything else in the game, these dungeons are optional, but they help you with your final battle with Ganon, so I recommend doing them all. They're also a lot of fun, so just go for it. What is an open world game without a million collectibles spread throughout the map? In Breath of the Wild, there are Korok seeds that you can collect, and there are over 900 of these bad boys to find. I never went near completing this task. By finding Korok seeds, you can expand your inventory, which is important for combat because your weapons break, so you want to have a larger inventory to hold more weapons. Again, this is exploration that rewards you. Everything ends up connecting. The game is aware that 99% of players are not going to collect every single Korok seed, and it's not necessary to even come close. It just acts as another way to encourage exploration. All of these shrines, divine beasts, collecting, it's all optional. They only serve as a purpose to make you stronger for when you fight Ganon. In Zelda, you start out as a weakling. Death comes easy for you with your lack of armor, good weapons, and your unfamiliarity with the environments around you. As you journey further, the forces that await you seem unbeatable. But just like in real life, you get stronger, you get smarter, and eventually, you overcome those obstacles. That is why I play video games, to explore and overcome obstacles. Breath of the Wild follows that notion better than any other game that I've ever played. It's a perfect game because it's made for everyone in the sense that you can play it however you want. There's no right way to play Breath of the Wild. Even if you're brand new to the Zelda series, you will be hooked on this game due to the sheer amount of content it has to offer and the variety within its gameplay. I have played a lot of video games in my lifetime. Definitely too many, but none of them compare to Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is a gaming achievement that will be remembered forever.